welcome back to Satisfactory. I'm Moko. So last time we set up this beautiful mess of a starting base. We got kind of towards the end of the game's intro and tutorial tiers. You can see in the top right there we've got our objective of building the space elevator. We've probably got a couple of things that we want to do before that, but definitely working towards that goal. We got some things set up in terms of some basic iron production here, smelting through into rods and screws and then storing them over here. We came over here and chucked some portable miners down on that limestone there and been making some concrete from those. And then down over here we've got our copper production, which is belting all the way into our main base here. Can I get back up there? Probably not. In terms of off-stream progress, I realised that I hadn't added any storage for the copper production here. We were just creating cables in here and doing nothing with them. So one, I let cables run up a little bit and realised that we needed some wire as well. So I've now got wire storage added here just temporarily. Similarly on this constructor over here, he's creating plates, and we weren't storing those anywhere, so I've got a storage bin now to collect any plates that do generate while we're away exploring. And also off stream I did a fair bit of exploring. You might remember there was more plants, more vegetation kicking it around this whole sort of area. Lots of that's now gone thanks to our new friend the chainsaw, which lets us do stuff like this. We could pick up leaves by hand, of course, but you see the area of effect there. And this also lets us get rid of trees and kind of more resilient bits of vegetation, which means that we're getting a lot more wood than we would running around collecting things by hand as well. So the other thing that I did while off stream, just over in this section here, is I added a very simple throughput. Leaves go in here, run through a constructor that's set to produce biomass, into another storage buffer here, and then these come into a second constructor which is creating our solid biofuel, and that's going to keep us going in terms of our fuel source for doing what we need to do next. So, in terms of long-term goals, which I've added on the right there, those are the things that we discussed at the very start of the series. Kind of big medium-term goal is get up to tier 4 so that we can take advantage of blueprints and coal power. In the short term, though, you'll see our to-do list there for goals for this episode and the immediate future is to unlock logistics tier so that we've got some splitters and mergers and we can produce more efficiently. To automate concrete production, because we are going to want to unlock foundations, and that uses a heckin' ton of concrete when you start to build out a more formal base. So, in terms of what we want to do, we want to unlock the splitters first so that we can use those in our automated concrete production. Let's see whether we're in a position to do that. We need 150 plates, 150 rods, and 300 wire. Plates, got about 100, rods, got about 100, wire we don't have any. So let's see what's going on over here. Alright, cool, tons of wire there. In fact, probably so much wire that we can afford to set this back to creating cables. And let's again make sure that if this produces more than we expect while we're busy, that we are storing it so that production doesn't back up. Rods, let's grab those ingots, let's grab those spare rods, that's good. So all we really need to care about are plates. Let's drop those ingots in here. And let's just craft a few by hand so that we can get to that tier. And I guess that means I'm going to need some of those ingots back. I'm doing this purely for speed, by the way. It's literally going to save us a couple of minutes versus automating these. Alright, cool. I think we should be good for everything. We are.
Milestone reached. Conveyor belts can now merge, split, and lift to increase the complexity and efficiency of your factory. We encourage you to consider more verticality when it comes to factory logistics to streamline short-range transportation. The productivity display will help you measure and improve the product.
Yep, cool. Okay. Let's have a look at what's next. So we have field research, which gets us the map and gets us the MAM. The MAM's going to help us to kind of, as we run into more rare resources around the world, to understand what it is technologically we can do with those. So we'll unlock some things there based on the Caterium tree and the Quartz tree and the Sulfur tree and that sort of thing. We need it, but we don't need it right this second. Foundations we're definitely going to need. You can see we need a lot of concrete to do that. And then over in tier 2, what do we got? Got assemblers, jump pads, awesome sink, which we might want to get towards relatively quickly, and Mark II belts, which we're definitely going to want to move towards. It sort of doesn't make sense to set up a really complex iron or copper factory while we're still limited to the throughput of the Mark I belts, 60 resources per minute. So as soon as we get this Mark II belt, it'll help us scale out the factory that we're going to work towards. So for now, I think base building is the way to go. And definitely the next thing we need to do, one is grab some more plates, if any more are ready. And two is we're going to want to automate that concrete. So I don't think we really looked at the to-do list in any detail yet. There's a couple of ways that we can do that. If we tab into inventory and then I hover over here, I just click into it, then I can do things like add some notes for myself in here. I'm just using the distinction between public and private to like get two categories, really. I think that doesn't really they don't behave any differently unless you play in multiplayer. The other thing that we can do with to do, if we head into the build menu here, is we can figure out what it is we're going to need to set up our basic concrete production and add them to our list. So we're definitely going to need a miner. And that miner's going to extract 60 resources per minute on a normal node, which means it'll be 120 per minute on a pure node. So we're going to need some constructors. Let's drop that down here so we can look at the recipe in detail. Concrete will have 120 limestone coming out, so we can get nearly 3 constructors out of that. They're going to be slightly starved, slightly running at less than peak efficiency, but that's better than only making use of 90 with 2 constructors. So that's what we're going to do. That'll generate us 45 concrete per minute, which sounds like a lot. We will burn through that very quickly. So 3 constructors, and then we're going to need belts and power pole and stuff like that. We come in here, does it give us what we need? Yes, it does. Okay, so we're going to need portable miners, iron plates, concrete, cool. So we've got everything we need to set up that basic production here, and we've got some left over for belts and things. I think we're good to head over and start doing that. Are you out? Yes, you are. In fact, I wonder if before we do that we should just split some iron into this boy. Because we're generating all of this iron over here, generating 120 per minute and only actually making use of 30 of it here, making 30 ingots, and only making use of 15 of those, so we have iron to spare. So in the interest of kind of passively building some of that stuff, let's do this. Let's add a splitter in here. Splitters. Okay, so we've got mergers and we've got splitters. Each of them are a 3 to 1 or 1 to 3 kind of thing. So splitter, 1 input, and it has these 3 outputs here, which it will divide equally until or unless one of the belts backs up. So if we put 2 belts out from here, it's going to take our 30 ingots, send 15 here and 15 here. These will be consumed fully because this one needs 15. This machine's going to starve a little bit because it's going to want 30 per minute, but better than nothing. Let's stick a... This is getting very spaghetti, but it's all just temporary. Let's stick a storage over here. Get some power into that, and now we're passively making plates without the need to feed this guy over here. So let's get rid of this stuff. Okay. Let's then... Why have you stalled? Oh, because I paused the this constructor to not use any energy. That was a bad idea. Okay, before we get stuck into concrete, how are we doing for power? We have this biomass burner here. We have a max consumption of 46 and we've got a capacity of 70, so we're good for now. So let's just top up the 3 biomass burners. And head over and set some concrete going. I'm just eyeballing the power consumption for that, by the way. If we wanted to, if we thought it was going to be kind of borderline, then we could go in and look at how much does a miner use, how much does 3 constructors use, judge that versus what we're using now versus the overall capacity that we've got. But ultimately, we're very close to our base here. If something throws a fuse, then we can quickly run over and just add another biomass burner. Okay, so let's get our miner on here. Have it outputting this away. Gonna want power to that. Get up here so we can see. And turn our torch on as well. Okay, so we're going to want to run that into a splitter here. I'm going to need to make fairly effective use of space here, so that should do. And let's grab our constructors. 1, 2, and 3. All I'm doing here to align is holding control, and then it kind of snaps them to the nearest thing and shows the guideline there as well. Let's get our conveyor in, and in. We're going to need more power, so let's add another pole there. 1, 2, 3. And what are we doing? We're doing concrete, and then we can just copy and paste the recipe from one to another. And then I think we actually want the concrete back down this way. We might be a little low on plates to do that. We are. So let's just set them, go in by hooking up the power. We'll grab some more plates and come back here to set up a belt down to a storage container that we can get to easily. What is that doing for power, by the way? Oh, taking 17. I think we're okay. Ba-dum-ba-dum. Where's my nearest not full power pole? There's one there. So those should now be running and starting to generate concrete. Let's grab some plates from our new plate storage. We are not very far away from starting to get foundations down and not having to deal with things like this little run up here, which will be nice. We can start to make the layout of the terrain work for us a little bit more than it is currently. It's a little easier to get some height to look down on this stuff. So we're going to merge in 3 to 1 this way. Push the output out of the front here, loop it round, and then just connect a belt down to there. That merger is too close despite looking like it was in line. This is a weird thing that I think is an update 7 experimental bug where you hold control to align and it tries to align it vertically as well, which a little bit odd, but whatever. Let's loop this around this way to there. To then bring it down there. Raise it up 1 notch just so it doesn't clip through the terrain here. Clipping doesn't have any effect aside from looking kind of visually poor, so we'll be trying to avoid that everywhere that we can do. Let's add up our storage. Let's just chuck it here so it's reasonably close to where we're doing most of our work in. No, in fact, yeah, let's. I was wondering about the space we're going to start to use to expand this stuff, but I think we'll be alright here. So, nice. That takes the pain out of manually going and mining for limestone to create concrete. Now this just needs a little bit of time to do its thing. What can we do in the meantime that would be a good use of time? Well, we're going to need some constructors and various other things for when we start to expand and flesh out our iron and copper production once we get foundations down. So I think actually what would be a good use of time right now is making some reinforced iron plates, which we can't make very many of. What's our limiting factor there? Plates by the looks of it. Let's craft everything we have into plates. Let's create some of those. Let's get rid of some junk from our inventory here. Don't need to be carrying around leaves. We do need some solid biofuel on us. Wood for now I'm just dumping in here with the goal of once we're a bit more organised we'll set up a similar production line as we have here with leaves into biomass. We'll set up a corresponding wood into biomass. What else have we got? Flowers, don't need those right now. Got some limestone, we could bin that, or we can just spend a couple of minutes turning that into a bit of extra concrete. Once things are a bit more automated, what tends to happen is like when you're rejigging things and destroying belts that already are hooked up between machines and stuff like that, you always end up with little bits of raw resource in your inventory. Pretty soon I'll not be in the habit of like worrying about making use of every little thing like that and just binning them here instead. But for now it's worth a couple of minutes to speed up our concrete. And let's see how we're doing with plates. Not as fast as we would like. So what I'm weighing up here kind of in my head is the fact that pretty soon we're going to just demolish all of this stuff, move it over to a solid foundation base, reorganize it, and things are going to be much more efficient and much more aesthetically pleasing. To do that we're going to need some more raw material than we've got right now, and we're not making very good use of this iron, so I think we'll do a temporary little further split of the iron here, set up a couple of smelters so that we can get some more plate production. For rods, we've got a few. Screws I feel like we're probably pretty healthy on right now actually. Yeah, we're not really going to need any more screws in the near future, I don't think. Watch that come back and bite me. One of the truisms of Satisfactory is you always need more screws than you think. But let's for now get rid of that. Let's get rid of all of this and rejig it very slightly. So we're still going to have our one miner. what we're going to do is take the output of that miner, split it 3 ways into smelters. Yeah, I've got the inventory space to not mess myself up by doing this. We'll split 3 ways into smelters, so that we're going to take this 120 that we're generating and split it into 40, 40, and 40. Each smelter can make use of 30, I think. So we're going to be slightly wasteful in doing that, but that's probably alright for the time being. That's not actually going to happen because belt's throughput is the limiting factor here, right? So while we're generating 120 in this machine, the most we can ever get out of it is 60 a minute. Okay, that's still alright. So let's split here, let's split, take our 60, and we're going to send 30 into this smelter, 30 into this smelter. You both need to be doing iron. And then let's just get more plates and rods. Where's the ladder? Is there no ladder on smelters? No, there is. Awesome. That's way more difficult than it should be to get up here and get a bird's eye view. That's not going to happen. Alright, let's do it from this side then, so we can at least get better visibility of it. So our 30 coming from this machine is going to go into rods, which only require 15 each, so we can get 2 constructors out of that. This is going to overload us on power, I'm fairly sure, but that's an easy fix. Constructor, constructor, do rods, and you do rods. Power to you. And then this one out of here. This has got 30 coming out of it and no power? Question mark? Why? That would be why. And that's going to run straight into a constructor taking 30 per minute to do iron. We have space to do that. Yeah, it's only soft clipping, it'll be fine. Plates, so yeah. And then for the sake of space, let's just chuck everything into this storage container for the time being. We're not going to generate so much of this stuff that we need to worry too much. What I will do here is take one merger here. And run it into another merger here. This does work just fine. You can chain splitters and mergers, okay, except that angle's not really going to work for us very well. Right, let's get rid of that and reposition it. And I'm doing this so that I can get the plates input into here as well. Is everything working? You have no power. Now you do. Speaking of power, we are consuming at most 67 and we've got capacity for 70, so we are right on the verge. For the effort that it'll take us, let's just add another biomass burner here so that we don't go and blow our power grid the next time we build something simple. No? Can you align, please? Close enough. Anyone have space? Nope, doesn't look like it. Let's disconnect you for a moment. You down to here, into there. Let's have you. What I'm looking to do here is get the 2 biomass burners on the same grid without blowing the grid, but I did. Oh well. And then the spare one from there is that biomass constructor back up and running. Cool. We got lots of stuff. Let me drop some screws in there just so they're not clogging up my inventory too much. So these are going to be slowly filling up, but I may as well shove the ingots that I've got in my inventory into there. What we could do, since we split production of rods, is we could have one of these feeding into screw production as well, but I think we're good for screws right now. We're going to need rods more in the short term. Okay, got 276 concrete, so we've got enough to unlock base building. What we don't have just yet is enough resource to really do much base building. But let's get that tier unlocked anyway. Oh, we don't have enough plates. That's surprising to me. Alright, well, in the interest of not sitting around waiting for things to automate, let's just pause the stream for a minute here, let that iron build up, and we'll come back and unlock that plate very soon. Alright, things have been chugging along nicely there. So we've made more concrete, we've made more plates, more rods, everything that we need to unlock the next tier. One thing that I am going to do is to just toggle that rod production over to plates for the moment. I think we're good for all the rods we'll need. We're going to need a fair few plates for belts and things once we refactor this iron production, once we've unlocked our foundations. One other thing that I did, just because the message about the unauthorized hostility was getting a little bit annoying, was I cleared out those hatcher pods from here. Generally we're going to try and live and let live, but yeah, seeing a message every 2 minutes that something's attacking me when we're on passive mode wasn't really doing it for me, so those are now gone. Okay, so let's hop over here and get that base building unlocked.
Milestone reached. You have unlocked several structures aimed to provide the first needed to build basic factory infrastructure and improved overview. Building these will provide a grid for more advanced organizing and sectioning of your factory.
Alright, cool. So, first thing we can do is cross these couple of things off our to-do list here. And what that has given us is this new foundations and walls menu. So, got foundations. All of these are squares. The 1 meter, 2 meter, 4 meter relates to the height of the various options, so we can plop that down, or plop that down. All I'm doing there is tapping the E key to move between the different types of buildables, and that kind of works for everything, by the way. Like if I pull up splitters from my hotbar here, then I can just tap E to go into mergers. There's also like a radial menu here for when you get into more different types of different things. What I am going to do is stick foundations 1 meter right onto my hotbar, because we're going to be using a ton of those. The other things that we have are ramps here, so this gives us some ways of connecting different elements of our factory that are on different vertical levels. In the walls menu, walls basically exist for aesthetics. Your factory is going to run, I was going to say almost exactly the same whether you have walls or whether you don't. In fact, because I think of soft clipping, they run exactly the same. Later on we're going to get some aesthetic choices for walls with gates and conveyor holes and stuff like that, but I'm pretty sure if you place a wall down and run power or a belt or something through it, it'll just run exactly the same. But certainly useful from a visual standpoint and from an organizational standpoint of segmenting off different areas from each other as well. With the foundations, if I hold the control key here, it's snapped it into the grid. So control does a couple of things. It gives us those like alignment lines where something is relative to something else, and that's handy for aligning like splitters and mergers to constructors and storage units, for example. With foundations, control also snaps you to the world grid, which is something that I didn't know until quite recently. this is incredibly useful because it means, one, that whatever you place down is going to be aligned to the cardinal directions. You can see we're looking at west on the compass there, and that we're solidly aligned to that. And more importantly, with it being a vertical grid, it means that if we start to build something here and build down a base, and then later on we go somewhere else and start building an outlier factory, so long as we press Control for the first thing that we lay down, everything's going to be aligned not only to the local grid, but also to the world grid, so when we go to build a train network or a highway or something between the two outposts, then they're going to be aligned, and we're not going to have any of that nasty stuff where you find out you're half a tile away because you started building factory number 2 offset to where factory number 1 was. What this gives us is a bit of a choice to make in terms of where we want to expand next. So the real goal here is like refactor this mess here with iron and copper production, get things down to a grid more sensibly aligned and with more efficient throughput, and also more better like options when it comes to scalability. We're going to be looking at tier 2 belts pretty soon, which means we're going to not be limited to the 60 ore coming from a single node, but we're going to be able to take advantage of the full 120. So we want to place things down and have the option to build and then double it or treble it as we get more efficient ways of getting the resources in, and as our needs for what we want to build expand. What I'm really saying there is we need to make good use of space. Now, with this starting setup, this kind of clearing that we're in at first, there's not enough room here for what we're going to need to do, even with our fairly basic iron and copper production. One option we've got is we can come over to the edge here, and because gravity is not a thing, for the most part in Satisfactory, then we can just build out into the void here. In fact, I'm just going to change my build mode here by tapping R. That's going to put me in zoop mode, which is going to let me zoop this stuff out. Makes it really good for quickly building stuff. So we could build out some big platforms over here and use this as the basis for our new factory. That's one option. The other option, I think, is to look at that valley behind our starting point and see if there's good potential there. Either will probably work, because one of the good things about foundations is they effectively let you transform the geometry. Like if we started to build in this direction and then found this hill ahead of us was a challenge, for example, all we would need to do would be to put down a couple of ramps. Let me grab that onto my hotbar quickly while I remember. All we need to do would be put down a couple of ramps and zoop them up like this, and then we could start to build the next tier above that, so we're kind of getting round the challenges that the landscape and the geometry of the world presents. What we have here is this kind of plateau, I guess, for want of a better word, overlooking the valley where we're starting here. So one thing we could do would be to have some basic level production down at the bottom here, and then build over the top of it from here. I think that might be quite a nice way to go. I think my only concerns there are still space. If you think we've got this iron node here, another one right behind it, another one right behind it, and then a fourth iron node over there. So at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to have 4 of these Mark 1 miners all churning out 120 ore per minute. So that means a lot of smelters. Each one of these is going to need 4 smelters with belts and connectors and stuff like that. So even if we were just doing basic iron production down on the ground floor here, that's like 16 smelters with belts and stuff, and I'm just not sure that there's really enough space to do that. We could expand things out in this direction, and I think ultimately we will end up doing that because the view here is pretty sweet. So it might be nice to have an interesting backdrop to work against. But I'm thinking in the short term what we'll do is just expand that basic iron and copper production out over the chasm here, just so that we've definitely got enough space to work with. So before we go and start building foundations in earnest, what does a foundation cost? At the moment we've only got access to the standard fix-it pattern. Yeah, this this stuff. Later on we'll unlock the ability to build pure concrete foundations and various other materials and that sort of thing. Right now we've only got the standard fix-it, which takes 5 concrete and 2 iron plates per square. So we are very quickly going to chew through the concrete and the plates that we've got. Did I toggle those rod machines to plates? Looks like I did. Good. Well done me. So I'm gonna let this production keep ticking over here while we build over in that direction. Let's grab some more concrete here as well. Okay, so let's start by placing down our kind of keystone foundation here that we know is aligned to the world grid. I'm just giving us enough height to clear this little ramp here. We'll build out in this direction. One thing we are going to have to be careful about working here, obviously, is the fact that that's a long way down. I will die if I fall that distance. Death isn't like a huge deal in this game, but it is a bit of an inconvenience because I'll drop the things that are in my inventory, have to go down and recover them. And right now I don't necessarily have the mobility to easily make my way down to a valley like that and get back up. So we can give ourselves a nice starting grid like this. And this can be the ground floor, the first floor of our factory. We can build out some smelters, some basic production over here, and then we can start to expand vertically to add some additional floors above that for things like basic rod, plate, wire and cable production. That's for next episode there. Let's leave things as they are right now. Thanks as always for watching, and I will catch up with you guys in the next episode of Satisfactory. Cheers!